I was sitting in the main conference room, nursing a burnt coffee I didn't want, when Marty Hessel dropped the news like a brick. Haley Carver, our fresh-out-of-college summer intern, was getting the quarterly performance bonus. 70 grand. The same 70 grand I'd been lining up for since February. I froze, the cup halfway to my mouth. I wasn't the only one. You could hear the room shift, papers rustling, throat clearing, a cough that sounded suspiciously like a laugh. I'd been at CorePoint Solutions almost 5 years, hit every target, carried broken accounts back from the grave, trained half the team sitting in that room. And somehow, Haley, who still needed reminders to log her time in the CRM, was the one being recognized for exceptional performance. Marty stood up front like he'd just cured cancer. Haley has shown the kind of initiative and vision that embodies the future of this company, he said, flashing his half-smile. The kind that never quite touched his eyes. Haley looked stunned. She smiled, nodded politely, said, "Thank you." But her body language screamed clueless. She had no idea what just happened. She didn't know what she'd been handed. I wasn't mad at her. She hadn't asked for this. But I knew well she wasn't the reason this happened. A few weeks earlier, I'd walked past Marty's office and caught part of a call. He was talking about some family reunion in a nowhere town called Darrow Ridge, Idaho. About 6,000 people, tops. I remembered because Haley mentioned it during her onboarding, said she grew up there, said her mom and Marty's mom had known each other forever. I didn't believe in coincidences, not in a place like this. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. After the meeting, I ducked into the break room to cool off. I wasn't going to make a scene, but I needed a second to not throw something. That's when Haley came in. "Caleb, I'm so sorry if this was weird," she said. Her voice was small, nervous. I had no idea about the bonus. I didn't even know I was being considered. I looked at her. She meant it. She looked like someone who just found out she got handed a car and didn't even ask for the keys. "I believe you," I said, "but you weren't the one who made the call." Marty was the problem. Marty and his phony speeches. The kind of guy who wrapped favoritism in buzzwords and expected everyone else to smile through it. I tossed the rest of the coffee in the sink and walked out without another word. I got in my car, drove home in silence, and cracked a beer before I even took off my shoes. My hands were still shaking. That bonus was supposed to knock out the last of my credit card debt. Maybe take my daughter to San Diego, like I promised her last year. Instead, it got handed to someone who still needed help finding the printer. I called my brother, Drew. He worked construction down in Fort Worth. No patience for corporate crap, but always picked up when I needed to vent. "They handed your bonus to a temp intern," he said after I explained. "That's beyond corporate politics. That's theft with a smile." I let out a laugh, but it was hollow. "It's not even about the money anymore. It's about what it says, Drew repeated. "It says you're working for a guy who's full of it." He wasn't wrong. I didn't bother going to HR. HR doesn't fix this kind of thing. They bury it. This was bigger than policy violations. This was rot in the structure, and once you smell it, you either walk or you demo the damn thing. So I started paying attention. For the next week, I watched Marty like a hawk. Not just how he acted around Haley, but how other people acted around him when she was in the room. He handed her the safest accounts, the easy wins, stuff we usually gave to juniors to cut their teeth. He sat next to her in meetings, repeated her comments louder so the room would hear them, praised her for ideas other people had pitched minutes earlier, and no one said a word. We all just smiled and nodded like this was normal. She got added to a leadership sync that hadn't accepted a new attendee in 3 years. They said it was to develop future leaders. She barely knew what half the acronyms in that room stood for. This wasn't some office fling. This was small-town loyalty in a business suit. He wasn't mentoring her. He was promoting his cousin's kid, and he didn't care who he stepped on to do it. But Haley, she didn't strut, didn't act entitled. She showed up early, took notes, asked real questions. And yeah, she was green, but not lazy. That's what made this harder. She didn't deserve the firestorm coming her way. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to flip a table or quit in a blaze of middle fingers. Marty didn't deserve that kind of exit. He deserved a lesson. A quiet, slow, patient one. The kind that settles in after you think you've won. I was going to teach him exactly what he'd taken for granted. and make sure Haley figured it out too. Because hard truth, it's the only kind that sticks. I cracked another beer and pulled up my laptop. If Marty wanted to play games, he'd pick the wrong piece to mess with. I showed up Monday with a smile and a plan sharp enough to cut glass. "Haley," I said, pulling up a chair next to her desk. "You've been getting a lot of attention lately. I think we should build on that. I'll start training you on our advanced client systems." Her eyes lit up like she'd just won a scholarship. "Really? I'd love that. Caleb, you're the only one who explains things in a way that makes sense." I nodded and pulled up a blank doc. "Let's dive in." Over the next 10 days, I gave her the crash course from hell: complex systems mapping, API chain dependencies, legacy platform migrations, cross-client optimization models that took me 3 years to fully grasp. I walked her through it all like it was Tuesday algebra. She wrote everything down, every damn word, asked good questions, nodded along like she understood it all. But I could see it. The cracks. The way her handwriting slowed the deeper we went. The hesitation when I paused and waited for her to summarize something back. Still, I kept at it, encouraged her. Let her think I was setting her up for success. Then I started volunteering her. When BioCore, a nightmare pharma client with 6 VPs and a hair trigger escalation process, asked for someone to help manage their SaaS rollout, I threw her name out like a gift. "Haley's been diving deep into integration work," I told Marty. "She's ready." He clapped like a damn seal. "Yes, great idea. Let's give her visibility." Then I passed off the executive briefing, my monthly deck for the C-suite, pitched it as a fresh perspective from someone who's been closer to client pain points lately. Marty ate it up, didn't even ask if she was ready. And me? I vanished. No more late nights fixing deployment issues. No more saving bad data pulls at midnight. No more rewriting proposals because a junior didn't triple-check the numbers. I left at 5:30 sharp, didn't touch a weekend email. If a system hiccuped, it hiccuped. If something broke, it stayed broken until someone else fixed it. And the machine, my machine, started to rattle. Internal dashboards loaded slow. Response times lagged. Small issues snowballed. Nobody noticed at first, because I'd made it all look easy for so long. But behind the curtains, Haley was stepping into fires I used to put out before breakfast. She tried. I'll give her that. Showed up early, followed the guides I gave her, cross-referenced everything. But she wasn't ready. She didn't know the shortcuts or the landmines. Didn't have the gut instinct you earn after getting burned a few times. BioCore started calling twice a day, asking about staging conflicts, incomplete data tags, rollout timelines that no longer made sense. I knew what was coming, and so did she. Still, I smiled when we passed in the hall. "You're doing great," I told her. "Really? I feel like I'm drowning." "Pressure just means you're getting sharper. Trust the process." She nodded, didn't push back. Marty, meanwhile, was too busy patting himself on the back to notice the walls closing in. He sent out another team-wide email praising Haley's growth mindset and commitment to strategic client support. Like those buzzwords could fix the mess that was brewing. I sat back and watched, didn't lift a finger, because this wasn't sabotage. I wasn't setting her up to fail. I gave her real training, honest chances, but I also gave her the truth, the weight of the job, the part nobody sees until you're the one carrying it. And Marty? He wanted a prodigy, a shortcut, someone he could point to and say, "Look what I built." So I let him. And I made damn sure he didn't see the storm until he was already standing in it. By week 3, the dominoes started tipping hard and fast. Haley's rollout with BioCore hit 3 snags in 48 hours. First, she misread the client's internal ticketing structure and sent our dev team the wrong integration specs. Then she greenlit a staging environment that didn't match their compliance standards. By the time I heard about it, BioCore's VP of Ops was already on the phone with Marty. And the executive briefing? Total disaster. She looked sharp walking in. New blazer, stack of notes, polished smile. 5 minutes in, she lost her place. Then the CFO asked about the projected churn rate in Q4. She blinked, looked at the slide, looked at the room. I think that was... Sorry, can I double-check the source on that?" she said. No one answered, just silence and polite tension. Marty jumped in, smoothed it over with a joke and some vague comment about emerging talent still finding their stride. But after the meeting, his face was tight, jaw clenched, hands shoved deep in his pockets. The glow was starting to wear off. Haley started lingering near my desk more. "Caleb, do you have a second?" she'd ask, holding her notepad like a shield. "Of course," I'd say, smiling. But I didn't solve things for her. I just asked questions, pushed the ball back into her court. "What do you think the client's expecting here? Did you cross-check the data sources before building the report?" "Sounds like a solid approach. Just make sure you verify it with legal." Encouraging, not rescuing. She nodded, scribbled things down, always polite, always grateful. But I saw it in her eyes, panic behind the posture. She wanted me to fix it, to take the pressure off her shoulders and carry it like I always had. But that was the point. I wasn't carrying anything that wasn't mine anymore. Meanwhile, the system issues stacked up like dirty dishes. One longtime client escalated a complaint about platform lag and reporting errors. Another paused their Phase 2 rollout, citing internal confusion on delivery timelines, which was corporate speak for your team screwed up. People started looking around, asking quiet questions. One junior analyst knocked on my cube and asked if the system outages were expected or if they should flag them. I told her to bring it to Haley. Her eyes got big, and she backed out without another word. Marty started getting CC'd on director-level complaints. He replied with tight diplomatic nonsense about optimization cycles and adjustments to meet evolving client needs, which translated to, "We're spinning plates and hoping no one drops one." Then on Thursday, Marty called me into his office. He didn't look smug anymore. No performance speak or buzzword salad, just circles under his eyes and tension in his jaw. "Caleb," he said, motioning for me to sit. "We're dealing with a few urgent priorities. Some concerns from BioCore, a hiccup with Jensen Financial, and I know the integration team's been stretched. I'd really appreciate it if you could take point. Get things back on track." I sat down slow, let the silence hang a second before answering. "I'm booked solid, Marty," I said flatly. "Haley's been looped into all those accounts. Maybe she could lead the charge." He blinked, twice. "Well, I was hoping to get your expertise back in the mix." I shrugged. "That ship sailed. I'm focused where I'm assigned. You wanted fresh leadership. Now's the time to let it lead." He didn't argue, just nodded slowly, like he wasn't sure what had just happened, but knew he'd lost control of it. I stood and walked out before he could say anything else. As I walked back to my desk from Marty's office, my phone buzzed. "Sloan Strategic, ready to talk compensation that matches your value?" I stared at the message for a second. They'd reached out before, twice actually. I'd always said no, loyalty, timing, some excuse about not being done building what I'd started at CorePoint. But this time, I hit reply. "Let's talk." They booked me for Thursday at 10. Another one Friday at noon. I burned 2 PTO days I hadn't touched in 18 months. Walked into their office without expectations, just curiosity. And I walked out with an offer before I even hit the elevator. 50% salary bump, 25 grand signing bonus, stock options, fully remote if I wanted, but more than that, it was the work. Deep system enterprise builds, full stack integration for Fortune 500 clients. No fluff, no politics, just real problems with high-stakes solutions. The stuff I actually cared about. I told them I'd think it over for the weekend, but I already knew. Monday morning, I printed my resignation letter on the company paper, folded it clean, stuck it in my top drawer, and waited. Didn't take long. Around 10, Marty came pacing by my cube like he'd been walking laps around the building. "Hey, Caleb," he said, trying to sound casual. "Got a sec? We've got some team priorities to realign, and I've been hearing troubling things from a couple clients." I stood up, handed him the letter without blinking. "I'm giving my 2 weeks." He took it like it might bite him. "What?" "No hard feelings," I said. "Just time for a new challenge." His face dropped, like someone unplugged him mid-sentence. His mouth opened, then closed again. "You're serious," I nodded. "Sloan Strategic. They've been after me for a while." He looked at the paper in his hand like it might change if he read it again. We can talk about compensation, he said, voice lower. If this is about money, it's not about money, Marty. It's about recognition. It's about trust. You made your bet 3 weeks ago. Now I'm making mine. He stepped back, nodding slowly like he was chewing glass. All right, if that's what you want, it is. He didn't try to shake my hand, just turned and walked away like the floor had shifted under him. I sat down and opened my inbox. 10 minutes later, HR scheduled my exit interview. The next 10 days were pure collapse. Haley was trying. Honestly, she was, but the cracks were everywhere now. Client chains that used to flow like clockwork were clogged with missteps, redos, and half answers. The integration team started sending Slack messages that bordered on begging. Who's driving this now? Is someone tracking these versions? Can we please get a lead assigned who knows the legacy structure? I stayed quiet. Marty? He was back in meetings, back in the weeds. The same guy who'd spent the last 6 months acting like a visionary now looked like a substitute teacher who lost the seating chart. His voice got tight. His praise dried up. He stopped calling Haley our rising star. Started calling her project lead, like putting distance between them would fix it. The senior consultants saw it too. They weren't dumb. One of them, Brent from commercial finance, stopped by my cube on a Wednesday. You really leaving for Sloan? He asked, half whisper. Yep. What did they offer you? I didn't lie, but I didn't hand him the full package either. Enough to feel respected, I said. He just nodded, but I could see the wheels turning, and that's when I realized something. Quiet departures make the biggest noise. Everyone saw what was happening. They just needed someone to go first. 3 days before I left, Haley cornered me near the print room. She looked worn down. Not like she hadn't slept, but like she'd finally woken up. Did you know this would happen? She asked. When you gave me all that advanced stuff? I looked her in the eye. I knew you were smart. I knew you'd try your hardest. That's not an answer. I let out a breath. You can't shortcut experience. No one can. Sometimes pressure teaches faster than prep ever could. She didn't flinch, didn't cry, just nodded slowly. I'm asking Marty to scale back my assignments, she said. I'm not ready to lead that pharma rollout. I respected the hell out of her for that. Most people, when they get thrown into the fire, either panic or blame the match. She walked through it and came out sharper, not bitter, just clear-eyed. The day after that, Marty pushed out a company-wide announcement about adjusting team workflows to optimize delivery cycles. It was the kind of corporate speak that screamed, "We're scrambling, but don't want to admit it." Meanwhile, I kept packing up my files, transferring knowledge to people who should have been trained years ago, and responding to handover emails with exactly what they needed, nothing more. I didn't do a victory lap. I didn't slam the door on my way out. I just watched a machine I'd kept running on duct tape and coffee finally show its broken parts, and let the people who ignored it see what I saw every damn day. On my last Friday, they gave me a half-hearted send-off in the break room. Someone brought cupcakes. Haley made a little card and passed it around. Marty stood near the fridge with a paper plate in his hand, looking like he hadn't slept in a week. He cleared his throat, tapped his cup with a pen. Before Caleb heads out, he said, I just want to say, he's been a pillar of the department. Reliable, steady. The kind of consistency and excellence you hope to build a team around. The room clapped. A few people smiled. I nodded and kept my hands in my pockets. After the party fizzled out, Marty followed me to my desk. Got a minute? He asked, voice low. I waited. I made a mistake with the bonus, he said. You were the one who earned it. I let personal ties cloud my judgment. I looked him straight in the eye. You're not the first guy to mix up loyalty and leadership. But, yeah, you screwed that one up, he didn't argue. I can match Sloan's offer, he said. Salary, title, performance bonuses. Hell, I'll get you a bigger office. Clean slate, I shook my head. It's not about money. It's about being seen. You didn't just pass me over. You used me as a ladder. His face twitched, like he wanted to deny it, but couldn't find the energy. Where are you going? Sloan Strategic. They build the kind of stuff I care about. And they pay like they mean it. His shoulders sagged. You'll take clients with you? Maybe, I said. Or maybe they'll just follow the guy who always showed up. I walked out that afternoon with a cardboard box and zero regrets. A month later, Haley sent me a LinkedIn message. She'd stepped back into a support role, focused on learning the foundation instead of skipping steps. Said that month taught her more than 4 years of college ever did. I believed her. Marty emailed too, said he was reworking how bonuses were handled, asked if Sloan might be open to partnering on a few enterprise contracts down the line. I didn't gloat, didn't spike the ball. I just left. And let the hole I walked out of do all the talking. Turns out, 70 grand was a small price to show a company what losing your best really costs.